It's time now for the award-winning #1 local talk show in Northeast Pennsylvania, The Sam Lesante Show. Now here's your host, Sam Lesante.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the Sam Lesante Show. Remember, 247ssptv.com, you get all of our shows. I'm Sam Lesante, and November 4th is an important day, my friends, and I know some of you say, well, why should I go and vote? Why shouldn't I? Listen, vote. It's very important for you to vote, so you have a say, all right? And there are some very important positions to be filled. One of them in Luzerne County, the Luzerne County Court of Common Pleas, is judgeship. Now, you know what's happening in the country with judges today, my friend. It's unbelievable. So what do we want? We want to make sure we have people in there who know what they're doing and are responsible. My guest today is attorney Mark Bufalino. And attorney, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
I've always wondered when someone wants to run for office, which I applaud, because it's really difficult, But, you're a successful attorney. You've had great cases. You have a great reputation. What do you want to become a judge for?
Well, first and foremost, I think I can be of some assistance. I have a breadth of experience in both the civil, criminal. I've done municipal work, and so I think I possess the qualities both professionally and personally to be a good judge. Plus, it's giving back service to the community, and in addition to that, it's the highest point of the legal profession, obviously, and then I don't know anybody that wouldn't want to be at the top of their own profession.
Well, what is your judicial philosophy?
So the rule of law is everything. Throughout my career, I've handled, as I said, both civil cases, criminal cases. In the criminal cases I've had, obviously we are on the opposite side from the Commonwealth and the police officers, but then I've also had the honor and pleasure of representing various municipalities and police officers in federal court in civil rights cases, which are civil in nature. And some people might say, well, how do you balance that? Well, it's the rule of law. Whatever the law says, that's what's at the heart of my philosophy.
You have temperament. Okay, you're as human as everybody.
Yes, sir.
How do you manage that temperament without bringing your personal feelings into a particular case? How do you do that? How do you become impartial?
Well, it's all about, first of all, I have a genuine love for the law, and I mean that wholeheartedly. And when you have that, like many people do, you have a respect for the law itself, and so it keeps you centered on this is what the law says has to happen, or this is what the law requires, and therefore your personal positions are out of the mix.
Now you keep referring to the law, okay? Now is this law that's established by the legislature, or is this you're limited, right, as a judge, as to what the law specifically states about a particular case? How does that work?
So yes, so the legislature creates the law, but there is also interpretation of that law for the court to implement. And so there's statutory law, then there's what we call case law. So the decisions that various judges make throughout cases can establish what the interpretation or the application of that law is.
See, that's where the question comes in, the interpretation. Okay, so if there's something you're involving a case, and you personally inside disagree with that particular thing, okay, that's where do politics come into play? The friendship come into play? Does the attorney who's representing that person come into play? Is it the family that comes into play? How do you know that I'm going to get that? Because you may get a nobody, so to speak, in front of you, okay? But the other person is represented by a zillion people, okay? How do you let that, as a judge, how do you separate that?
So many people will recognize the Lady Justice, which often comes with a blindfold on and the scales of justice.
Right.
So that didn't happen on accident. Justice is blind, and so the court is an equal playing field for everybody, and so that's what keeps you centered. I mean, the legislature creates the law. If somebody wants to be in the business of creating the law, then they can run for the legislature. That's not what I'm running for.
Yeah, yeah. It often fascinates me when you've seen throughout the country today, the certain judges are coming out making, decisions, and then they're overturned because you don't know whether politics is being played at that particular point in time. So it all depends who you're listening to as to, well, they did it because of, et cetera. And that sometimes make people think about, am I getting a fair shake here? Okay, how do you dispel those rumors, particularly in Luzerne County? Now, thank God I think we have a great judicial system. I mean, what do you think?
We do.
Yeah, I mean, and so you're aspiring to become a judge, and that's quite an honor. Okay, how do you make people feel comfortable about that, Mark?
Well, first of all, I cannot comment about any matter in particularity that could come before the court. Those are the judicial canons that we're required to follow. But in a general sense, it just goes back to what I said before. It's balls and strikes. This is what the law requires, or this is what the law prohibits, or what it allows, and that's what we follow. And anybody that comes before the court should have an equal playing field.
All right, so experience to me would be important. Okay, it's just like if I'm going to a doctor, and God forbid you need heart surgery. Well, it's not going to go through the yellow pages and say, oh, here's I like this guy, let's get him. Okay, so I mean, everyone is running. They have reputations. What separates Mark Bufalino, from the rest? Okay, and why should we, consider Mark Bufalino for judgeship for Luzerne County?
It's funny that you use that analogy because I often use it myself. Anybody with a serious medical procedure would not walk into the hospital and say, I would like to have the person who has never done this before.
It sounds stupid, but it's a good point, right?
I have, for the last 30 years, I've been where you would often find a judge, which is the courtroom. I've been a trial lawyer for 30 years. I've tried over 30 cases, jury trials to verdict in those 30 years. Now, that may not sound like a high number when you think about being a lawyer for 30 years. That's on average of one trial a year. There are some lawyers that spend their whole career and never go to trial, and that doesn't make them any better or worse than me.
Right.
But I've tried criminal cases, including capital murder cases. I've tried civil cases. I've litigated in the United States Supreme Court. Didn't have the pleasure of arguing in front of them, but we litigated through paperwork in the United States Supreme Court. So municipal cases, injunction matters, PFAs, custody matters, divorces, a variety of matters. So I think that I possess the quality, the breadth of experience that could be of service, not just to the court, but we're there to serve the whole community.
Okay, so let me throw this at you, okay? How many years you practicing law?
30.
All right. So when you became a lawyer, right, and you got the law, you passed the law, now you get your first case, all right? Now as a rookie lawyer, you go to Attorney Lesante, hey, Lesante, I have a case in front of Judge Smith tomorrow. What kind of guy is he? Okay. I mean, we all ask that question. I mean, I'm sure as a young attorney, when you went in front of a judge, you want to know, something about that judge. What did you want to know about that judge at that time, if you could recall?
Basically, what we're running on right now, experienced, tough, but fair.
That's it. Okay, so, your fellow colleagues would say, Mark, this guy is tough in this area, or he's lenient in this area, etc. So judges gain reputations, okay? Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, the reputation is, no matter what profession you do, obviously is important. We were talking before the show that no matter what you do, your credibility is important.
And that's the key, Mark. I think is that do we feel comfortable? Okay, first of all, you don't want to, never want to be in front of a judge, and other than maybe civil matters that you need a judge to decide on. But I mean, you want to make sure if I'm going in front of Judge Bufalino, you're going to get a fair case. He's going to be, regardless of who the lawyer is. How is that judge going to look at this case? Okay, so how would you, now I'm coming in front of you in court, Attorney Sam Lesante and Attorney John Smith. Now, Sam Lesante is a very good friend of Bufalino's, okay? This guy, he's okay, etc. So, you going to give me a break here?
We're gonna give everybody their equal shot at a full and fair hearing. So the good Lord gives you two ears for a reason. You need to listen with both of them.
Yeah. And that's, I think these are common questions that people, the first thing, you're running a lot of ads with us, and I was telling you people are kidding with me, and they're saying, but really, and I've said to you before, thank God I gained the trust of a lot of people, particularly seniors, and that makes me feel good. So when someone says to me, and they kid with me, and they say, Sammy, really, what kind of guy is this guy? And so, and you get that question, tell me as a friend, and so I try to tell them what I said, you see the show, you heard, the candidate, et cetera, et cetera. So when someone asks me that question, what should I tell them?
He's no different than you or me. I'm a guy running for a job. I have the experience. I'm running to go to work. It doesn't make me any better or any worse than any other human being on the planet. And I'm proud of the fact that as I travel throughout the county, that I relate to people of all different types because we just treat them as human beings.
As you're going through the county, which I always find interesting because you learn a lot, don't you? What are some of the things that you're picking up and learning about as you're going through the county? Because you're all over the place,
The one thing that just stands out is what we all already know is what genuinely good human beings we have in Luzerne County. I mean, really salt of the earth people.
Yeah. Have they when they're talking to you, have they said, and I'd like for you to do this, or is it just a general good luck and yeah?
Yeah, pretty much just a general good luck. There's no real specificity to it, but they've been very warm, very welcoming, and it's been a pleasure, honestly.
Folks, I'm talking to Attorney Mark Bufalino. He is running for judge in Luzerne County Court of Common Pleas, November 4th. As we said, try to get to know as much as you can about the candidates, and because it's such a critical day for us. We'll be back after this. Well, welcome back to the Sam Lesante Show, folks. Remember, 24/7, ssptv.com. All of our shows are there. My email, sam@ssptv.com. Phone number, 570-455-7267. And my friends, thank you for making the Sam Lesante Show the #1 talk show in northeastern Pennsylvania. I really appreciate it. My guest today, my friends, is Attorney Mark Bufalino, and he's running for Luzerne County Court of Common Pleas. We try to bring as much information to you as possible to get the best candidates in. And let me continue on with you, Attorney Bufalino. We mentioned before, in case someone's just going through the channels, if you need a surgery and if you need whatever that's to your health, you want to make sure that if whatever doctor is going to be performing anything on you, everything you know about them, what their experiences are in the different matters, etc. I think it's the same with anyone who's running for office. So, what's your experience? Why should I vote for you as judge in Luzerne County?
So because in those 30 years of practicing law, you would often find me where you would often find a judge, which is the courtroom. I've tried more than 30 jury trials to verdict in those 30 years, both civil and criminal, litigated in the United States Supreme Court, handled municipal cases, injunction matters, PFAs, custody matters. There's just about no area of the law that I haven't had experience in. And so it's like that doctor you're going to, you have a little bit more confidence that they have the experience needed to do the job.
So you mentioned a variety of courtrooms you've been in, okay? Is there, if you're going to a federal court, or if you're going to a local court, or if you're going to a district magistrate, okay, is there any different types of preparation or laws that you need as a lawyer?
Absolutely. So the federal system has their own rules of procedure. They have their own, in many ways, a different set of laws that need to be followed. Obviously, we have federal laws and we have state laws, but there's also procedure becomes very important. And particularly when you're a trial lawyer, there's a lot of technicalities that you have to be familiar with in going from one court to another, whether it's federal, state, or local. And so, yes,
You have to be prepared.
1,000%.
Yeah. What do you prefer most as a lawyer?
As long as I'm in the courtroom, I'm happy.
It doesn't make any difference, but the preparation is important.
Yeah, and you have to remember that every case, it's not just going to court. You're there representing somebody, and to that person, that's the biggest case that has ever happened in the world.
Exactly.
And I'm proud to say that at least I've tried, and I think I've been successful in treating that case just like that.
Yeah, that's it always fascinates me, the preparation, okay? Are there times when you may have a client and you have gone and as you're doing the preparation for this particular case and you realize, uh-oh, we have a concern here. I better put a hold on this because I don't know if I'm prepared or we're on, if we're on the right path here. You get what I'm trying to say?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in every case you have, strengths and you have some weaknesses, or you may have the possibility of a weakness, but you deal with them the same. I mean, no case is perfect.
Mark, when I was in college, I enjoyed debating. And what I enjoyed about debating was the fact that you had a subject matter that you had to be pro this month. Then you had to be against it the next month. So you needed to do research on both areas. And you know what I found? I found that when I was so pro something, and then when I start reading about the other side, saying, well, wait a minute, it gave me a better vision as to what my decision was, because I explored both sides. As a lawyer, do you do that when you're, in court?
Absolutely. So I think we touched on earlier in the show that in the criminal context, I'm generally defending clients against charges that are brought by police officers. But I've also had the honor and pleasure of representing some of those police officers in the federal court in civil rights matters, and knowing not just the police officers, but knowing the different positions that come gives you a breadth of experience and makes you more well-rounded, in my view.
All right. So, and in debating, we get up and we want to win, okay, and the other team would come on, and I mean, we were pounding and pounding, but we never had anything personal against that other team.
Correct.
Okay. I mean, even though we're fighting on an issue, okay, and I find attorneys, which I admire, all good attorneys, is that they go in court, they do their job, and it could be, but they don't hate each other personally, correct?
Correct. That is very, very true.
Yeah, and I think that's, admirable, though.
Well, we're doing a job, quite frankly, and you don't make it personal. But like I sit here today practicing law for 30 years, being a criminal defense lawyer, being a civil lawyer. I'm received the endorsement of the local FOP, the Troop N here in Hazleton State Police, and the County Detectives Association. And so
That means something a lot.
it does, but it dovetails with that, what you were just saying before. We may have been on opposite sides or the same side, depending on the type of case, but it's not personal. And I think they know exactly what our motto is. I'm experienced, I'm tough, but I'm fair.
What community involvement have you had?
I would like to think a lot. So long before I ever sought this job, I was one of the one of the first members of the St. Teresa's Back Mountain Free Legal Clinic. And so we would meet on Friday nights, and we would hear the concerns and the legal problems from people who could not necessarily afford an attorney, and try to guide them in the right way. Not taking their case personally is one of the things that we would not do, so it didn't become a feeder system for the lawyers who were showing up there, but to truly try to give back to those people at least some guidance or some direction to get them to a lawyer that could help them.
Do you enjoy being a lawyer?
I do. I love it.
Yeah. When did you decide you wanted to be a lawyer?
Probably when I was 4.
No kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then is any relatives that are?
You do. My grandfather was a lawyer. My dad was a lawyer for 50 years at the bar. And then I have 2 brothers that are lawyers.
Wow, you were surrounded by that.
Yes.
You know, I want to become a lawyer one time.
Come on.
Yeah, honest to God, Tony Favello, I used to, remember,
do.
was like a brother to me, And I said, Tony, I'd like to become a lawyer. He said, yeah, you make a good lawyer. So I said, well,
I think you would.
I think it's a challenge, and when you're doing something good for somebody,
Correct.
and you really believe it, okay? It's not the financial, it's not that. I mean, listen, I'm in the advertising business, all right? But sometimes I see some of these ads with lawyers, okay, and billboards or something that I just, is it the money, or are you going to get a lawyer that really appreciates what's going on? I mean,
So I've had the benefit of my father, who is probably the best resource of any book or any course I've ever taken in my life for a variety of reasons. But he would constantly remind us that, make a living, pay your bills, do all of that, but never forget that at the heart of being a lawyer is about helping people.
yeah, it's so true, Here again, you're as human as anybody, okay? And sometimes you have a viewpoint, all right? So now you have a case, and that particular person is totally against what your views are, okay, personally, all right? And I know we touched on this before, but I want to make it crystal clear how you would feel on that. You come in and say, he's a staunch blah, 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 so you better watch, because if you're this, he's going to come after you. Do I have to worry about that with Judge Bufalino if you become judge?
The primary thing is whatever the law requires. The rule of law dictates, not your own personal positions, not your own personal feelings on a matter. That's what controls.
And it's funny, because as I'm seeing some of these things, and when the judge says sustained, overrule, sustained, and I'm thinking, well, how does that judge know when to sustain something and overrule something?
So that's thank you for asking that, because that's again part of experience. It's not just knowing the law. We have, in addition to the rules of procedure, when to do what, when to file this, when to say that. There are, in addition to that, a tremendously complicated set of what we call the rules of evidence. And when things are admissible, when they are not admissible. And as a lawyer, as a trial lawyer, you need to master those. And I like to think I have.
And see, and I think, Mark, that's where the experience comes in. That's where the knowledge, and that's why you should feel comfortable if you're going in front of someone, whomever that person is, male or female, that they have that experience, etc. Well, as I say, to everyone, you'll learn a lot when you're on a 26, 28 minutes versus a 30-second commercial. So in closing, what do you have to say to viewers? Why should they vote for Mark Bufalino for Luzerne County Judge?
I would like to say, first of all, thank you for the opportunity for meeting many of you. I think I have the experience and the temperament to do this job in the best possible way. And so that's...
Well, I wish you the best of luck, as I wish everyone the best of luck. My friends, learn about the candidates as much as you can. It's important. They could affect your lives. Remember, 24/7, you can watch this show anywhere on YouTube, etc. If you have any comments, email me, sam@ssptv.com. My number, 570-455-7267. We'll see you next time.